They're Dynamite fans. It's the big day. It's finally here. It's Red Sonja's 50th anniversary. 50. So, as you can see behind me, we pull out all the stops with all these incredible artists. It's big. It's crazy. We gotta go big or go home. It's the 50th anniversary. So, Red Sonja #1 is hitting stores this Wednesday, July 19th, and this is your big sneak peek. So, let's get the camera off of me and onto the book, shall we? This brand new series is from Torren Grombeck and art by Walter Giovanni, and check out these covers. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. Shannon Mayer, Jim Chung, Alan Kwa, Brian Hitch, cosplay by Joni Brosas, Mr. Garson, Jenny Frizen, Kevin Eastman, Mike Mignola. Oh my god, and these subs, again, there's so many to count. I don't think I probably named them all, but still, we'll keep going. Lucio Parrillo, Joseph Michael Linsner, Bjorn Berendes. We have foil covers, line art covers, every cover you can think of. It's so exciting. We're so excited to share this with you guys. So please go to your local comic book store this Wednesday, July 19th, and pick up Red Sonja #1. We'll see you next time.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. In particular, welcome to PCP Movie Night. In more particularlessness, welcome to the second week of ActionFest 2023. Station Pop Pop Boom. And ActionFest is that time in the summer where we like to celebrate the most macho, manly, explosive movies out there. And sometimes what we like to do is pick a movie that we loved when I was a kid, and it doesn't age very well. And that may be what happens tonight, because tonight we're covering our very first Chuck Norris film here on PCP Movie Night. We're talking about 1984's Missing in Action from Canon. You know how much we love the Canon Film Group, Canon Group Incorporated, whatever the hell they're called. You know how much we love their movies, the Van Damme stuff like Cyborg. We love Masters of the Universe. We love the Tobe Hooper movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and Life Force. But man, not everything they did was gold. But this movie made a lot of money, and I was excited to revisit it with my friends. So let's bring out the panel. Talking with us tonight about this cinematic Chuck Norris classic, we got Brooks. What's up, my man?
What's up, man? I wish I had a line from the movie I could throw out, but I don't remember a single fucking one. Not even a fucking one-liner.
No good one-liners.
In honor of the occasion, I brought my Chuck Norris Karate Commando. Fun fact, this lifeless lump of plastic has more charisma than the main character in this fucking movie.
If only they had a Braddock action figure. Speaking of Braddock action figures, if there was one, he would know where to find it. It's Mike06. What is up, my man?
Hey, sorry, you had me backstage. I was kind of like, what? I was thrown off there for a second.
Yeah, because we introduced the panel.
Yeah,
Mike, is this your first rodeo? What's going on, man?
I just woke up, man. I just woke up from
this movie put you to sleep, is what you're saying.
This movie put, well, I mean, 50-50. So, but no, I don't have. I don't know if they ever did anything for Mission in action figure wise. So, but they did GI Joe. So that's good enough.
All right. Speaking of GI Joe, we got our own GI Joe here. It's GI Joe Corallo. How you doing, my man?
Thanks. It's good to be a real American hero.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
See, that's how you introduce yourselves, everybody. That's how you do it.
Exactly. But
all right,
yeah, no.
Dude, I'm really surprised actually that out of the entire ActionFest list, you picked this one. So
I picked another one too.
That's true.
I'm glad I picked this one. It looks like if Delaney's not even here, like I mean, come on.
Yeah, Delaney wanted to be here. He's having water issues at his apartment apparently again. So
sorry,
Delaney just wants us to know the movie is slow, boring, dull, and he gives it 2 out of 5 you digs. All right. So now that that's out of the way, I picked the lineup for ActionFest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited for this because I really remember loving this movie as a kid. After rewatching this movie twice this week, I think I'm thinking of a different movie. Like maybe it's Delta Force, maybe it's Missing in Action 2, maybe it's even Missing in Action 3. I have no idea. By the way, part 2 is the prequel to this movie. Both 1 and 2 were filmed at the same time. And 2 was supposed to be the first one. It's the story of him in Vietnam being captured and escaping, right? But apparently after they made the film, Canon was looking at both of them and they were like, the second one's better, so we'll release that one first. All right, so it's just some more background information. This movie is directed by Joey Zito, who also did Invasion USA, which of course is a Chuck Norris film that was made the very next year, but also Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and The Prowler. Prowler's one that I'm really fond of personally myself. Terrible movie. Great Tom Savini effects. I remember really loving this movie as a kid, and y'all, it did not hold up for me. I'm just going to say that. Like, it was pretty long feeling. Like, I watched Mission Impossible Part 7, which is actually Dead Reckoning Part 1. So I watched Mission Impossible Part 7, Part 1 this week. 2.5 hours. Felt shorter than this movie. This movie feels long to me. The biggest fault I can find with it is just some pacing issues. I actually like the story, even though it is Rambo First Blood Part 2. And the reason why is because Sylvester Stallone was shopping around the script for Rambo 2. He approached Canon and said, yeah, I want to make this film. I need like $30 to $40 million. They're like, yo, we do our movies for like $2 to $4 million. So he was like, all right, never mind. But they liked the story so much, they were like, we should do one of these Vietnam POW things, which was also a hot button topic at the time, especially in 1984, when we're in the midst of the Olympics and an election year. Me and Mike were talking about this earlier, right? Get all that going on. They get Chuck Norris. Canon signs him for a 5-picture deal, $5 million to make 5 movies, 3 missing in actions, the Invasion movie, and the movie that I just found out about today from somebody. I can't even remember who told me. Firewalker with Louis Gossett Jr. I apparently need to watch that movie because it's like an Indiana Jones type Chuck Norris movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. And Canon was in on this, like trying to get people into like multi-picture deals. They did the same thing with Toby Hooper, right? So Missing in Action. It's dull. It's kind of boring. It's got some bits that I like. It's got some characters that I like, but for the most part, it falls very flat. It doesn't have anything that really makes it stand out, especially nowadays from other action movies. At the time, it may have seemed novel and different and interesting and cool, but it definitely doesn't now. And the inevitable comparison to Rambo First Blood 2, which is my least favorite Rambo film, to be honest with you. But I think Rambo First Blood Part 2 is actually a better film, and Chuck Norris has better films. And I really wish I would have picked Delta Force, y'all. I really do. And I apologize to the panel for not having picked that one. So, Brooks, what did you think about this one? Was it your first time watching? Did you watch this one when you were a kid?
No, I had not seen this one when I was a kid. I've seen surprisingly few Chuck Norris movies from my childhood. The only one I can recall is Sidekicks, and that he was barely in that one. He only showed up at like the end. But I love that movie, and like I've always liked Chuck Norris. Like I remember when I first saw him in Return of the Dragon, which is like or Way of the Dragon, I guess. but you know, he's in that movie, but like he doesn't have the beard yet. So I saw him in that, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? It took me a minute to realize because you know, no beard, very weird. But I did watch Walker Texas Ranger a lot when I was a kid too, as well.
That tracks actually, Brooks.
Yeah. How could you not?
But yeah, I was pretty excited to watch this movie, and it was a bit disappointing to be honest. It is extremely bland. It is such. It feels like every other action movie, but like, just like it's so basic. It's like the most basic action movie I've ever seen. And you know, it has a thing like, you know, when it comes to movies with like political messaging, especially like right-wing political messaging, like I can overlook a lot of that, you know, because of you know, time has passed, you know, different things are political, like, you know, you care less about. But this movie kind of goes a little bit too far into it. I think it leans too much into the whole you know, the whole right-wing agenda of trying to perpetuate the war in Vietnam by trying to convince people that, you know, this was a big issue, which I mean, I don't know if it was or not, but I just think that's kind of the intent behind it. But I mean, it's just it's so. And my problem is like the main character in this movie is so bland. Like, you know, I can't remember any of his lines. Like I barely remember I don't think he even does that much karate in this movie. And that's what I expect from a Chuck Norris movie. You know, I want to see him like doing some kicks and punches and shit.
Yeah, the best thing that he does in this movie is not even the delivery of a line, but it's when he comes up slow motion out of the fucking water, right?
Like a lot of his movies, him like doing stealth shit, and like that's not very interesting, you know, for in an action movie.
Yeah, like 20 minutes of him climbing a wall. Is that what you're talking about?
It's like we're not watching Metal Gear. We're not playing Metal Gear Solid, dude. We're watching an action movie. To get to the action.
Well, one thing I do want to point out is that Chuck Norris this was kind of a passion project. He had like, I think I'm going to get some of this information kind of muddled, but like he had a brother, I think, that died in Vietnam or some family member. I think it was a brother. It was very important to him to kind of tell this story. Right. Mm-hmm. And apparently he had a distaste actually because I think that like his vision was different than what actually got produced. Like they wanted to do something else, but they had a missing in action script and they just kind of took his ideas and merged them in with that. But he wasn't excited about the idea that his character deserted people in Vietnam because he was like having lost a brother or a family member, whoever it was like very adamant about showing the plight of this. And me and Mike were talking about this, and you know, I was in 1984. I'm 3 years old. I don't remember, you know, whatever, but I do remember something about like the idea of Vietnam POWs and like that they were there, like they were still there back in the day and like all this kind of stuff. So it's definitely playing in on that. But you got to think with the election year, the Olympics and all this kind of stuff, it just kind of adds up into something, right? But with it and First Blood kind of, and James Cameron wrote that script,
this is
right?
Very Rambo, First Blood Part 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were kind of disappointed in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right, I guess.
Okay. All right, Mike, what did you think? Obviously not your first time watching, but has it been like me? Has it been since you were a kid watching this film?
I think, you remember like the USA movies or like the Fox, the TBS, like the Saturday afternoon movies when we were kids? I think that's where I saw it, like sometime in the 90s. I mean, it's a fine film for what it is. I mean, if you go back and look at stuff in 1984, it was either a huge blockbuster or this. Like, there's not. It's no Full Metal.
You're saying it's either Ghostbusters or Temple of Doom or this.
It's not, but it's a movie that's not made at that level. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not D. It's not D, but it's a C or a B. Like it's not bad. Not great, but it's entertaining. It got the job done. So, I would think I was thinking it was a little having heard what everybody said. I think my opinion of it was like, oh, like this is gonna suck, and it's not that bad. There's some pacing issues, but you know, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's a fun watch. It is definitely slow. It's not one of those. I mean, everything happened. It's kind of like that '80s though. It's where it's just kind of like you get a little bit of stuff going on, and then you get the big action at the end. Like it's not like today where you have like, it's like, oh, at the end of every, what is it, like the 3 acts? Like in today, it's like every act, at the end of every act, there's a huge explosion. Now it's just kind of like, all right, this is just basically like, okay, it moves along and saves everything for the end. So I think it was fun. Like you said, the pacing. On the history aspect of it too, I told you today that like the Vietnam Wall was created in 1982 and this was 84, so it's still a lot of that is still in the people's minds. I talked to my dad about it, and it was one of those things where it's just kind of like, yeah, you had a lot of people that didn't want to believe that, it's like I had friends that didn't come home. I had, we had family members that didn't come home, and we were hoping that they would still be alive, and they were just missing, and then like just the whole political side of it, and so it was still a very it was a touching. It was still in the hearts and minds of everybody. It was still fresh, like it was like we haven't properly, like people in America and in U.S. that is hadn't properly healed yet from this. That, like I said, it's still fresh. We didn't see a lot of the war movies at that time were still like World War II, based. Very few Vietnam, and then you started seeing the Vietnam movies starting to because people wanted to talk about it and people wanted to get those stories told. So, it's
all right,
what it is.
So you decently entertaining for you.
Yeah.
It's all right, a little slow maybe or whatever. What about you, Joe? Was this your first time watching it? Is this something you had seen before? Or did you see it on the list? You're like, I've never seen Missing in Action. Let's check it out. What'd you think?
I never knowingly saw Missing in Action. I think I saw this as like a kid on like TV, like USA Network or TNT or something like that. Because I definitely like recognize like bits of it. I was like, oh, let me like actually watch this movie and not have seen like 40 minutes of it on like a Sunday afternoon or something in 1998, So yeah, I was like, oh, let me give this a shot. And it was okay. But one of the other elements too that I was thinking of, it was also making me think, because again, this was a popular subject at the time. There was a John Sable freelance like 2-parter that it's different in that it's like a woman who wants to find her husband who she believes is still alive, is like a POW out in Vietnam, and John Sable, the setup is similar in the sense that he's like, I gotta find like a couple of drunks to like go in and get this guy out of there. Like, and the John Sable story is better, but no, I was thinking of
That's
that.
not too hard to believe, Joe.
No, but I also think while we're having this discussion, it's actually a bit of an urban myth, this idea that Vietnam vets were like spit on and mistreated when they came back. Like, vets being mistreated is a completely different topic, but in terms of particularly by like random public, like I think there was this like picture, this like image that people like latched onto of someone spitting on
it was like demonizing hippies, I think.
Yeah, but that's actually not representative of what was going on at the time, but that's like been perpetuated, and now there's this like idea of like that was what was going on. Vietnam veterans, like most veterans, never received the proper, I guess after war care, but they didn't receive, proper care benefits.
Well, you got to think like
every other
for the government. It was like a shameful into the war, right? Where they were like, like I know certain factions of the military knew that if they could do certain things, they could win the war.
Yeah.
And then there was all this and that. And it was like, it was just one of those things where like, yeah, I don't know why we were in Vietnam, y'all. I'm sorry. Like we're bringing back finally. I don't know. But it was also one of the first wars where, like with World War I and II, after the fact, the American population got to see like pictures, right? But in Vietnam was like the first war that was like broadcast live almost, where like people could go and watch on their news like heinous fucking imagery, right? And so I always thought that maybe that was attached to it in some kind of way. But it's interesting that you say that that's not that's kind of like an urban myth almost in a way.
Yeah, it is interesting. A family friend was a POW, and interesting. The way it happened was the helicopter pilot was asking if they got everybody, and if it was ready to take off, and he was saying no, but the helicopter pilot thought he said go, so he gave him like a thumbs up and lifted off and left him on the ground with some other people, and it was taken in.
Jeez.
But yeah, so that's a fun story. But so yeah, so I get it, and it was horrible how POWs were treated and everything. But it it's it wouldn't be a good joke to say like watching this movie felt like I was in a POW camp in Vietnam. But,
oh fuck!
So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that would be a bad joke to make.
That would be a bad joke to make. That would be kind of funny. So you thought the movie was just okay?
It's all right.
All right. Well, regardless of what we think about the film, it's got some solid performances in it. Like really, like one in particular, I think is really, really solid. And I don't think anybody's going to pick it out until we get back to me. So Brooks, you go first. Your favorite performance in this film?
Well, my favorite character is probably like the effeminate political leader guy who he kills while he's in his bed. Like the I guess the main bad guy throughout the first half of the movie. He's
the guy who's like in like fucking. Is you talking about the guy who's in like Blade Runner and Big Trouble in Little China, and he's in Everything Everywhere All at Once, right? He's the grandfather or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's the grandfather. Yep.
Yeah.
He's in Balls of Fury.
Very much what you'd expect from a villain in this movie. He's a slimy guy. He for no reason he says, "How does it feel to know that we killed those 10 men you left behind?" And I love how he has, when he sneaks into his bedroom, he has like these pink curtains around his bed. It's like everything in this movie is saying like this guy's like he's a little effeminate, But I thought he was gonna like last to the end of the movie, but like he gets killed like halfway through. I was shocked. But then again, I guess he didn't have like the connection that the other guy, the guy who actually tortured Chuck Norris, had. So he was always destined to be kind of the real final villain.
We kind of like dies before the big final bit too, though, right? Like he gets got.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about the guy with the shades or whatever.
Yeah, he didn't make it all the way to the end either.
No, nobody. Like, there's not really a good threaded villain throughout the piece. Actually, I think it's one of the problems with the structure of the film, which we'll get to. What about you, Mike? What's a performance that you absolutely love in the film?
It's not my choice, but I was going to say the Senator was kind of a nice villain that made it all the way through, beginning to end. So I'm going to go.
Wasn't it a senator in fucking Rambo 2? Like, wasn't it like, or some kind of political figure too?
But I'm going to go with the other Blade Runner alumni and go with Emmett Walsh's
Tuck. Jelani said his favorite character, by the way, which obviously.
He gets good comedic relief. There's still a potential for him to be alive. We never saw the body. We didn't see it go flying in the explosion. He could have dove into the water and, he's going to go back to the raft. There's a possibility that he's alive. I like how he's just like, hey, I'm going to go with you, but I'm not going to get off the boat. And then he's just like, well, fine, I'll pilot the raft, but I'm still not going to get off on the boat. Still not going to get off. And he does everything he says he's not going to do. So he's a good friend for and good comic relief. So
Yeah,
not
and
much,
he has
not
that,
much to these characters.
and there's that moment of humanity, right? Like the movie actually livens up a little bit when he shows up because there's a little bit of comedic relief, right? Which I think the movie needed that throughout a little bit more of it, right? But he's a cool character, and in all of these like 80s action films, you got to have the partner who dies at the end of Act 2. You know what I'm saying? We're like, no, or something like some sacrifice. But I love it too because he has a nice like journey because he's like, look, you knew what you were doing getting me here. I'm not leaving the raft at all. But he winds up like sacrificing himself and this whole bit. And so it's a really cool character and definitely to me the standout role in the film. What about you, Joe? What's a performance you want to highlight?
Oh, geez. There's so many amazing performances to choose from in this movie. I'm going to go with, for this, Lenore Kasdorf, the not love interest, because she's just so... It's not even that it's a standout performance. It's more that it's like a woman that gets to speak in the movie. The bit where she drops the champagne, that good, quick thinking. That was a nice little bit. Break that, cause that glass to shatter, get the people to move away, so you can kind of help Chuck Norris because he clearly needed that help because he wouldn't have just somehow magically murdered them while being covered in plot armor. So.
That's what that Chuck Norris action figure you got Brooks is wearing, right? Plot armor. That's what that actually is.
The famous Chuck Norris plot armor. Got CN on the front.
And you also have that bit where she is just annoyed at the couple of instances where she might have almost been sexually assaulted. Like,
yes, he was here with me all night.
Like she plays really annoyed in a scene where it seems like maybe don't.
Yeah.
But it seems like all of their lives are on the line that she really sells that he was there all night, and she is sarcastic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, definitely here. You're like, oh my God, you're both gonna get murdered.
It's like the end of a scene in a sitcom where she delivers the line and the audience laughs and applauds and it goes to commercial. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. But it's fine because for whatever reason, they're not killed, so the rest of the movie can happen.
Are they in an embassy or something like that? They're like they're in like a protected zone in this one hotel or something, right? So there's all that going on, right?
That, but don't you think he probably broke it when he used that definitely American knife to murder James on? You'd think that they would be like, this is definitely like a probably U.S. military knife.
They didn't have crime scene investigators in Vietnam back then.
Yeah, there's no CSI back then, right?
Yeah, so it's just like they were like, he was. How could the guy we all saw him have an intense argument with earlier be murdered? And be like, what are we gonna do?
It's a nice game of cat and mouse from that point forward, right? Could be if it had a little bit more intensity. And I've seen people be like, what's 1984? We're not in the era of the MCU. Characters aren't flying around. French Connection was made like over 10 years before this film, and that's a kinetic film. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got movement to it. So I'm just saying, like, it could be done. Nobody picked the best character in the film, the best performance. First of all, major shout out to Spider-Man in the film. I'm actually absolutely transfixed about the 80s Spider-Man cartoon. I loved that cartoon. I love that it's in here. It's really funny. Canon had just recently got the rights to do a Spider-Man film. That never happened, right? But they had just got the rights. That's pretty much why they put that in there, was to be like, yo, we got Spider-Man. And it's probably a good thing that they didn't do a Spider-Man movie, seeing their Superman shit, seeing the Masters of the Universe, right? But I'm going to tell you something. Joe, could you imagine how awesome it would be if we had a 1980s canon Spider-Man film in existence? It would be like one of those best like bad movies. Like that would have been so ridiculous. It
It'd
would
be like
definitely
the
be a
original
movie.
Fantastic Four movie, probably.
Yeah, the Corman one. It would be definitely something like that. Like I feel like we were robbed not having the canon Spider-Man film. That would absolutely be fantastic. But the best character is, if you like my body and you think I'm sexy, come on and just let me know. I don't know. There's something about the delivery, the singing there that just really captivates me. Style and structure of the film. Style's fine. It's the canon film style. It's just cheesy 80s action movie, explosions, slow, stoic Chuck Norris. Everything is there, but there's something wrong with the pace of the film. Maybe too many flashbacks, maybe too many just slow bits of Chuck Norris climbing up fucking walls. Maybe it needs a little bit more comedic factor. Maybe it needs Kevin Feige. I don't fucking know what this movie needs, but it needs 10 minutes less and it needs a little bit more punchiness to it. So I guess I do know what I think this movie needs. It needs to be a little bit more punchy and it's not. And it just kind of falls flat and it just kind of sits there. And honestly, I watched this movie for free on Amazon on Freevee, which had commercials. And usually I hate doing that, but I actually liked it for this one because when the commercials came out, I was like, thank God I can just take a break. And like the movie was kind of boring and dull and long for me. What do you think about the style and the structure, Brooks?
Well, I mean, this is very 80s action movie. And I guess I said this before, but it's basically what you would expect from a movie from this era. I mean, I think like it's paced all right. It feels too long to me, for one, like for an action movie like this. But the thing I think is my thing is like it doesn't have enough action in the places where it needs action. Like it doesn't have enough Chuck Norris doing karate shit, and it has too much Chuck Norris doing like Metal Gear Solid shit, or like Chuck Norris like in a car chase or something like that, which is fine. But I mean, you also need more. You need to see Chuck Norris doing karate stuff, and he needs to be like. He should have had a big karate showdown at the end with the fucking dude who kept him in the camp. But I mean, I think they just made it was too long, mainly and it needed more action.
Too long. It needed more action.
Yeah.
You know, that reminds me of one person too long and needing more action. That's Mike06. What's up, Mike? What do you think about the style and structure of the film?
It could have been a little bit more suspenseful. Like there wasn't. It's kind of him climbing on the wall and throwing knives at people. It wasn't.
You never get the sense he's in any real danger.
Right. It's kind of like he knows what he's doing. Like there's no suspense. There's not a lot of suspense in this. And it could have been probably a little bit better if there was something at stake or like that. So I don't know. It is what it is. Like there's not much to this film. I mean, can't go into detail about like, oh, they should have done this. It's very. I mean, it's a basic film, so it's canon. Like it's not a masterpiece, but it's still fun. So
Canon has some masterpieces under their belt. I'm just gonna say Masters of the Universe, Life Force. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay. But you're right. Every ActionFest, there's a movie from my childhood I pick, and then we watch it, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Last year it was The Golden Child, where I was just like, what? I thought this movie was good. Joe, you're a writer. What do you think about the style and structure of this film?
It's rare for me to watch an action movie where I genuinely think to myself, ugh, another action scene. But this movie actually pulls that off towards the end. It's after they free the the POWs and they have like their one shootout, but then they're like getting to the boat. After they free they do the whole thing. He comes out from the water, he guns down those three, and they rescue the POWs. I was kind of like, this is a good place to end this movie. And I was just like, Jesus fuck, there's another like action set piece after this, and it's long. Like
I think I was inaccurate when I said that there's too much action. I think it's like there's enough action, but it's boring action.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough like good action in this movie.
And then when you get to the bit where you want to see, like when they show up with the POWs at the press conference live, and they just freeze frame it before anything happens. They're just like, movie's over, y'all. We're done. We hit an hour 40.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's very bizarre. it's just, but you know, it starts off promising where everyone is wearing their helmet except Chuck Norris because he's the star of the movie, and that like dream sequence, maybe, or memory, or both.
Yeah, it's kind of ambiguous. It's kind of like in the air there, man.
I don't think he would have blown himself up with 2 grenades if it was a real memory.
Like, that part's the dream, but it's like other parts maybe weren't, you know, I'm like, I don't know. But
I guess we got to come back next week for part 2, y'all. The beginning.
Just freeze frame and end it here.
But then there's that bit where right after that he was watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. You're like, what? Okay.
I'm trying to remember what villain he was fighting.
Shocker. He was fighting the Shocker.
Shocker.
Yeah.
But if you notice, they picked the right episode because it's like the Shocker's in prison. He gets broken free. And that is what inspires Braddock to call up the person that in the news report when he breaks his TV. I'll do it. So stupid. This Spider-Man cartoon, though, was part of the inspiration. I swear. But you do hear Stan Lee's voice in this film, by the way, just so y'all know.
It's great. I for a second there, I legitimately thought, I was like, is this why Robbie picked this movie? Because there's like a Marvel Comics reference in it.
I picked this movie because I remember liking it when I was a kid, but I think I'm thinking of part 2 or Delta Force or something. It was probably else.
Something else, or you were just like 2 Blade Runner alums in one movie.
No, I liked this movie before I liked Blade Runner. I didn't see Blade Runner till the director's cut came out or whatever the fuck on VHS or DVD or some shit.
Yeah, you know. But,
anyway, yeah, I love how we're stretching this missing in action out though, y'all. It's not a good movie. I don't think I would recommend it. All right, but before we get to that,
missing in substance.
Yeah, I love what Two Gun said because Brooks said there's not enough action, and Two Gun's like, dude, the lack of action is in the title.
Well, the action is missing. The action is missing in action.
Well, maybe we're meant to watch part 2 first, like watch it how it's originally done, because like it might be really like there might like 2 might have like it's just action.
This movie does the Indiana Jones approach. We were talking about it last week, right? The first movie was Raiders, the second movie was the prequel, and then we do a sequel. Like that's what they do here. What's crazy is in Missing in Action 3. They completely retcon the story where when he's in Vietnam, he has a wife and a fucking kid who he thinks are dead or some shit. And then he gets captured. Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. We should have done the whole franchise, but actually I'm glad we didn't because it was hard enough to get through 1, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know, man. I think we should give 2 a chance next year.
we should do 2, the movie that Canon said, I don't know.
Not as good as this one. Yeah, the one that Cannon thought was kind of weak.
Yeah, the one like, I don't know. That'd be the wrong foot to step forward with. So
I don't know who did the music in the film because I already closed my Wikipedia tab out. But if somebody wants to let me know, that's fine. The music's fine. Brooks keeps saying this word, basic. It's just basic. And the thing is, it's not this movie's fault. I think this movie cost like $2 to $4 million to make. $1 million of that was Chuck Norris's salary. Think about that. Like half the budget of this film was Chuck Norris alone, right? For what it did, it made like $22 million or something like that. This was a huge hit for Canon. Yeah, when you just spend $2 million, you make 22. That's huge, right? So, but it is just kind of basic. And I can't really necessarily fault the movie for that. but at the same time, we're being critical and we're having fun with it. This isn't a bad movie that's fun to rewatch for me. You know what I'm saying? But the music, let's get to it. The music is basic. It's okay. It's kind of got that military march, dun 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 dun, you know, that kind of like thing. There's moments where it's just like a tone. It's okay, right? Like today, I watched it while I was doing work. So I'm doing FOC, and I'm watching Missing in Action, right? So I'm mostly listening to it. I'm trying to think about the score, and nothing really stands out. There's not really a theme that goes through. It sounds like anything else from that era. It sounds like the score to the fucking the A-Team. You know what I'm saying? It just sounds like something like that. So it's okay. It does its own thing, but I don't think I need to buy this one on Blu-ray. I don't think I need to buy the soundtrack. I don't think I need to revisit this one anytime soon. Brooks, what do you think about the music? And y'all roll on through. I gotta whiz.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree. It is very, very basic soundtrack. But I mean, the thing about this movie is like most of this movie just like slid right off of my brain as I watched it. So it's like it was hard for me to focus on the soundtrack as well. I do remember liking the song in the whatever score they did in the beginning when the dream sequence. But other than that, it's all right. You know, it's serviceable, and you know it's what you would expect from in an action movie of this era, pretty much. What about you, Mike? What do you think about the soundtrack to this beloved classic?
So the composer of all the music was Jay Chataway. His biggest thing on his IMDb is Maniac Cop and Maniac Cop 2. He also did Silver Bullet, Invasion USA, but he did this little small TV show. He did he composed the music for a really small TV show in the 90s called Star Trek: The Next Generation. I don't think anybody watched that.
What is that?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
So he also did some stuff with Picard. So he was kind of seems like he's just doing a bunch of Chuck Norris and Star Trek stuff. So not a bad career, really.
Sounds like living the dream, yeah.
Work with Chuck Norris.
Did they ever put Chuck Norris in Star Trek?
I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting if they did.
It's a missed opportunity. I don't think Shatner would have been having it though.
Well, he would have been working with Picard. He would have been more with Picard.
Yeah.
TNG. So.
Yeah, like older Chuck Norris.
I don't think that Chuck Norris would have adhered to the primary directive.
I'm going rogue. Damn it, Chuck!
No Star
That's
Trek.
why we never take you on away teams.
No Star Trek captain really did. Let's be honest, right? Like every other episode, they're breaking the prime directive in some kind of way.
I really want to see Chuck Norris as a captain in a Star Trek series now.
That would actually be cool.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Have you all talked about the music?
I just have to add the techno music at the disco. You could probably work into like a mashup track or sample or something like that. But other than that, no, it's all just generic stuff.
I thought that was New Order at first, man. I was like, is that New Order? Sounds like it. That's one of my favorite musical bits in the movie. Thank you for reminding me of that, actually. Yeah. The theme of this movie, it's a very layered, dense, nuanced film, right? Brooks, why don't you tell us what you think the theme of the film is?
Well, I think first and foremost, this movie is about loyalty, like, you know, loyalty to your friends, you know, because that's the main character's motivation. Like, he feels like, you know, his friends are still, you know, trapped somewhere, and like he wants to go and help them, and like he's willing to do whatever it takes, you know. Damn the bureaucracy, and damn like the authority. He's going in there. He's going to get his boys, and he's going to bring them home, because that's what we do here. Because we love loyalty. All
right, loyalty. That's definitely in there, man. 100%. Mike, what's this movie saying to you, man?
Sometimes you got to go back and save your friends. So, I mean, Don't
Hopefully, you would always want to go and save your friends.
don't trust the government, even when they say anything. Especially foreign governments, they lie. Damn the man. I guess I don't know.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Nicely put. Nicely put. What about you,
He just
Joe?
stated every theme to this movie.
He really did, I think, in the last one. I don't know. That's the most important one. Like, honestly. Joe, what are you picking up from this film?
I think what this movie is trying to say is libertarian. I think it's, just straight up that you can't trust anyone to do the right thing except yourself. But I guess also, like, I don't know, I feel like that's definitely what the movie's saying. Like, you can't trust anyone else to do the right thing except you. And I'm gonna start giving this movie too much credit, but because a lot of movies like that fall into this of it's, while it kind of I feel like you could be tricked into thinking it's a patriotic movie, but the U.S. also comes off really bad in this movie, so it's really very strictly your government's not going to help you. Other governments aren't going to help you.
Saying he's like a
you have to help
Randian
yourself.
Superman.
Yeah, it's very Randy. Like, it's very much like it's this weird. It feels patriotic, but also America would rather throw you under the bus to a foreign government than save your life.
You just really made me rethink this movie, Joe. I'm not even kidding. Because my whole thing is, I was about to go in this whole bit of like, oh, this is just nationalism and xenophobia and this and all this kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But you gave this movie too much credit. Now I'm thinking about it. You're right. This movie does not paint America in a positive light, just like Rambo First Blood Part 2. But
yeah,
it doesn't. And it is about the importance of the individual in affecting the change that we need to. So fuck, I can pull that. Maybe that may you're right. It does kind of come across a little bit libertarian, but how about this? Let's frame it this way. This movie is about the importance of one person doing the right thing, regardless of the consequence. Who am I trying to impress? I'm not going to dress up for your press conference. I don't care if I'm pissing off the president. And you're right. America is one of the villains in this film, right? Mike mentioned that when he said the senator was one of the villains through the film. Holy crap. This movie's maybe a little bit... Fuck. Joe, you fucked me up, man. You gave this movie more credit than it deserved, man. Now I'm rethinking things. It's still boring, though. All right, time to rate the film. You out there in the chat, if you watch this one for this movie review, first of all, I apologize. Second of all, let us know, out of 5 you digs, what do you think about Missing in Action? What do you rate it? Brooks, kick us off.
I'd give this one a 2.5. To me, like, some movies are average, some movies are slightly above average. This one's slightly below average, just because of how like I would say it's like they didn't give the lead much personality. It just does. The action scenes are pretty dull in some spots. I just think like this could have been more. Like if they just given like Chuck Norris more to do and like giving him better lines, giving him more karate stuff. But it's not terrible. I mean, it's a decent enough action movie, but it feels overlong. Like, and I find it's hard for me to like, this is one of those movies that it was hard for me to concentrate sometimes because my mind would drift sometimes because I was getting bored in certain parts. But there were some parts that I really did like. So I wouldn't say it's like a total loss, but I guess it depends on your love of Chuck Norris as being factor into how much you like this movie.
Yeah. All right. Nice. 2.5 from Brooks. What about you, Mike? What do you think?
I'm pretty sure he would have given it a 3 if he had thrown some karate chops, in there.
I love how Brooks is obsessed with like needing to see Chuck Norris do karate.
That's what
I mean,
I
he
want
did.
from Chuck Norris.
I mean, he did like a double clothesline. He did some kicks.
Yeah, he did a little, but he didn't do enough.
Did some punching. So I mean, it is what it is. I might be a little generous. Like I said, it was fun. It really doesn't hold a place in my childhood. So, but it was enjoyable. So I guess I'm gonna give it a 3.
All
Not
right.
bad. I've seen worse.
3
Yeah.
from Mike. What about you, Joe? What do you think?
I've been on the fence between 2.5 and 3. I'm gonna go 2.5, but it's not like. But again, I did actually enjoy multiple action set pieces in this. If the ending didn't drag, if that last action bit at the end was more engaging, this might have even bordered on a 3.5. Like if that last bit after they rescue the POWs was, because it's like that that's a finisher. That him coming out from the water and that's how you like end your action for the movie, and then you gave us a less interesting action sort of set piece at the end. If they flip that around or they put that in that moment, like I think this would be a 3 hands down, if not starting to push 3.5. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5.
All right. I will agree with the majority of the panel here and say 2.5. It's not a great film, but it's not like the worst thing. I don't hate that I rewatched it. I'm glad that I did, because I'm glad I didn't buy it on Blu-ray. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm really pleased with that, honestly. Usually the movies we cover are things I want to own and things like that. And usually it's because I bought a movie and I need to rewatch it, or I want to buy a movie and it's an excuse to buy it, right? This one, I was like, I'm just going to watch this one on Freevee. I don't care.
Same.
Commercials and all. Like, who gives a shit? 2.5. It's all right. It's not the best Chuck Norris film. I swear Delta Force is better. Next year, ActionFest, Delta Force, y'all. We're doing it, okay? And if it's not better, we're not doing any more Chuck Norris movies until Brooks picks Sidekicks for Crew's Choice. All right. So a 2.5 from me. I saw that Two Gun out there also gave it a 2.5. So that's dope. So 2.5 from me, Brooks and Joe, and a 3 from Mike for a 2.5, 69 dudes. So that's pretty cool. And I like that. We did it. We did it. All right. Action Fest continues next week with an absolute banger. I guarantee it. We're going to be talking about Ip Man next week. Very excited for this one. It's going to be fun. Fable, I believe, is going to be joining us for that show. It's going to be great. But do check out Dylan's Horror Show. Dylan's Horror Show this week are doing a double feature. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003, as well as Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Beginning. Why is Dylan doing this? I don't fucking know. Because guess how Horror Fest starts? On PCP. The entire Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. So why is he doing 2 of the fucking movies that we're doing to start Horror Fest now? I don't fucking know, but it's Dylan's show. So check out Dylan's Horror Show. I won't be there, but you can check out my thoughts when we start Horror Fest. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning. But next week here for Action Fest, Ip Man. By the way, Sunday night, Rockin' Robbie Live. I'm revealing the entirety of the Horror Fest lineup for 2023. It's the biggest, most bold lineup we've ever had here on PCP and our associated channels. Brooks, thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts?
Well, again, I wish I could think of a line from the movie, but I don't remember any of them. Maybe I'll just mime coming up out of the water with the gun.
Nice. I like that. Mike, final thoughts. Thank you for joining us. You're muted. I like the inversion of the bit. You're muted at the end of the show instead of the beginning. I like it.
Yeah, got to be different somehow, But I said I'm looking forward to when we do Mission and Action 2. It should be the 5 of us with Jelani, keep it going, and then do 3 sometime later down the road. So.
Oh, fuck, you're right, Two Gun. Is this week Humanoids? This week is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, it's Humanoids. Yeah, it's Humanoids this week. I'm on it. Humanoids from the Deep. I'm sorry. I had the wrong thumbnail. I'm going to be there for Humanoids from the Deep, to be honest with you. What the fuck? All right, anyway, moving on. Joe, thank you for being here. Final thoughts?
Yeah, there's better Chuck Norris out there, but also this isn't this is I guess a good hungover on a Sunday late morning, and the TV was on this channel already and the remote's a little too far away. You'll be fine.
I'd rather watch Walker Texas Ranger in this movie.
I'd rather watch Sidekicks, man. All right.
Oh yeah, dude.
Or Way of the Dragon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem is Brooks is watching Way of the Dragon and then he watches this and he's like, I swear Delta Force has got to be the one, right? Delta Force is the badass one, right? Surely.
Yeah.
One of them was super badass. I remember when I was a kid. I don't know. I also thought Cobra was badass when I was a kid and I still stand by that. So. All right, once again, Dylan is doing Humanoids from the Deep this week, and I will be there. I totally looked at the wrong list. Humanoids from the Deep this week. I'm totally there because Steph and Fable, I think, are going to hate that film, and I'm excited to be there. But next week, Ip Man here. We're talking Hong Kong on ActionFest. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. We're tipping out. How do I end these shows? Station, pop, pop, boom. Holler. Oh, buy Red Sonja #1 from Dynamite Comics this week. Celebrate the 50th anniversary. I have been Robbie Shills.
Woo.
We'll see you next
Don't
time.
forget to use your AMC code. The